joining me in to speak about this test for India, which is India versus Australia, and much more, is one of the former coaches of the setup. He's been part to a lot of the closed room talks. He's been an integral part of that Indian cricket team setup. Is R. Sridhar. Thank you so much for joining in, R. Sridhar. You're at home, you're in Hyderabad. It's a pleasure to have you here at First Sports.
Hi, Rupa, and it's a pleasure to be there on First Post, sharing my thoughts and views, and wishing you all the very best on your new journey.
Thank you so much, Coach. The very first question that I have to ask you is, obviously the selection, the team was selected, was announced for the Australia 3 ODI series. Your thoughts on Ashwin's inclusion and how important is a presence of someone like Ashwin in India's World Cup setup?
Look, honestly, I was a little surprised at Ashwin's inclusion because I thought they announced the World Cup squad and I didn't see it coming, honestly. Although I quite second it because I didn't see Ashwin's inclusion coming in the ODI series versus Australia. But I think Ashwin's presence in the dressing room is invaluable. I mean, he's someone who thinks 360 degrees when he's part of a cricket match, and he's quite ahead of the game as far as his thought process is concerned. At least, well, I used to talk to him. That is the feeling I got. So having Ashwin in the change room is always going to be beneficial, no matter which team it is.
The other sort of person we have to speak about is one name that was excluded from a unit that he was already a part of, which is Sanju Samson. Again, someone we know, we've seen the talent and the promise that he holds in that batting lineup. How big a miss is it to not have someone like Sanju Samson? Do you think that he should have been included at least in this Australia series, if not the World Cup?
Yeah, it comes as a surprise because he went for the Asia Cup as a backup to KL Rahul. I think just the fact that KL Rahul is fully fit now, and he may want to keep wickets in all the 3 games, going by the fact that he hasn't played international cricket for quite a bit now, so he may want more and more game time. And with Ishan Kishan being there in the squad as well, they thought maybe they thought that there's no place for Sanju in that combination, and Sanju has been left out. But having said that, you feel for Sanju, someone who's got a very decent one-day average at a very decent strike rate. Unfortunately, there's so much talent in India, that has been the boon and the bane for Indian cricket, I would say. But yeah, I feel sorry for Sanju, but it is how it is, and he has to keep moving on.
Right. Speaking about the series itself, Coach, India versus Australia. Now, you've been part of the integral setup which has faced Australia in the past. You were part of that very famous Test series win down under, the first time that India beat Australia. Tell us a bit about how Australia is as a team, as an opponent. You've sort of been privy to so many conversations. You've been privy to the way they've been to opponents. How is Australia how intimidating are they as opponents?
Well, there are multiple layers to your question. I'll answer it one layer at a time. Talking about Australians as an opponent, it is how we treat them. I know it is very easy to get a little affected by their aggression. But if we are the aggressors against a team like Australia, and then we always have an upper hand against them, and that is exactly what Virat and Ravi showed throughout their tours in Australia. You become the aggressors and take the game to them rather than allowing them to kind of dictate the terms and conditions. And that with that approach, we did find success. Having said that, extremely competitive white ball team. They have won the World Cup a staggering 5 times across different continents. So obviously they know how to play a World Cup. And they also have a very good white ball record in India of late. I think they're the only team which has managed to win an ODI series in India. I remember just before last World Cup in 2019, we were 2-0 up against Australia in a series. But they came back and beat us 3-2. And I think the 4th game was in Mohali and the 5th game was in Delhi, and we lost that series. Obviously, we had rested some players in that series as well. Like Dhoni played his last match in Ranchi, and then we moved on and we tried out different combinations, and we didn't win that series. before the 2019 World Cup. And even the last series when Australia traveled here in India, they played a magnificent game in Chennai, and Zampa bowled really well, and they defended a very low score against us, and they went on to clinch that series as well. So they probably are the only team to have beaten India twice in the last 8 or 10 years in India in a ODI series. So with that in mind, we have to give them a lot of respect. But their captain, Pat Cummins, obviously has not played a lot of ODI cricket for Australia of late, and he's hardly captained Australia in ODIs. Probably the most inexperienced ODI captain going into this World Cup, having captained them only for 4 or 5 games. So that is something which we will have to wait and watch as to how the team is responding to Pat Cummins' style of captaincy, although he's done exceptionally well in the Ashes. So that is something which Australia will worry about. A lot of players coming back from injury. Big Show, Maxwell, Steve Smith, Mitch Stark obviously had a good series last time around, but coming back from injury. So very, very interesting to watch. Now Travis Head is out with injury. Maybe he'll join the team midway through the World Cup. So Labuschagne is back in the scheme, I guess. So they're also yet to find their bearings in terms of the preparation for World Cup. But there are some positives from their tour in South Africa. So they will be quite formidable, and India should be really looking up to this.
Yes, you've covered a few areas of concern for Australia, but what about India? What are the few gaps? Because this is sort of like a litmus test before the big one, which is the World Cup for both these sides. What are the few gaps that India will be looking to sort of plug in this particular series?
I don't think there are much gaps in the Indian team at present, because Bumrah is back, and with Bumrah, Siraj, Shami, Shardul, and Hardik, obviously we have a very formidable pace bowling attack. Even though Bumrah has not played a lot in India over the last 3 years, I think even then we are quite formidable. And going by the World Cup squad, which is announced, not yet finalized though, but I think our spin department is quite healthy. Hope we are wishing Akshar a very speedy recovery from his injury, because he's someone who's batting really well. And we have the all-rounder slots covered with Jaddu, Shardul, and Akshar, and Hardik obviously being premier all-rounder in the world. So batting looking in good form. KL Rahul coming back, Ishan Kishan doing well, Gill right up there with the best. So with Rohit and Virat's experience, I think we've got all bases covered. The only thing the Indian team should do here is embrace the pressure. They embrace the pressure of playing at home, embrace the pressure of being the favorites, embrace the pressure of the crowd giving you over love and more support. You got to embrace that. And then I think this Indian team is sorted to play that game on November 18th or 19th.
Sridhar, we always talk about India-Pakistan rivalry, but what about India-Australia? You know, you've been part of that core dressing room. What are the talks like about them taking on a side, about India taking on a side like Australia?
I mean, that's a big rivalry. I mean, India-Pakistan rivalry, yes, is huge emotionally for the country. And in my opinion, India has always had a upper hand in that rivalry. If you see the scoreline, our scores are way ahead. Obviously, 1 or 2 games, occasionally we lose. It's a sport. But India-Australia rivalry, there is a lot of mutual respect. There's a lot of mutual respect, and the quality of cricket, in my opinion, is really high. Right up there with the best cricket that one can ever watch on television or live. Going by what I have seen and felt in the dressing room, players make their own plans. I remember once, just before the 2015 World Cup semi-final, I remember Talat Dhoni once telling the team in one of those talks that when you play against the Aussies, you have to play against their ego. You have to make them play on their ego. That is something which we spoke about. And I think the players are very sharp. Someone like a Kohli is very sharp to catch the weaknesses of the Australians, and he has their pulse. He knows when to go after them. And we have, as a team, did realize that you have to get under the skin and go after them, play a very aggressive brand of cricket against them. And that is what Kohli has done against Australia, and he's been really able to succeed enormously against that team and also get under the skin in terms of irritating them. Rishabh Pant was someone who's always successful against Australia because he took the attack to them. So was Bumrah. So is Ashwin, for all you know, very aggressive in his mindset and in his bowling plans. He knows in and out of the Aussies how they play. So although there is mutual respect for the quality of cricket, but tactically they're always fighting for the one-upmanship. A lot of talks in the change room about usko kahan khelna hai, isko kaisa khelna hai, isko kaisa khelna hai, about way how they are mentally as individual as a team. But always what we speak against Australia is ego. Make them play against their ego. That is something which you always speak, and yeah, that's something I remember.
Rohit, you mentioned Virat and Ravi had this whole thing of being aggressive, and you have to be aggressive to take it to the Aussies. What sort of a captain do you see Rohit to be in the same position?
I think, make no mistake, Rohit is also very aggressive. I think sometimes we tend to, look at people's body language and we can't get enough of their mindset. Rohit is as aggressive as any captain you would want. He's aggressive with his bowling moves. If you see the other day when Siraj was bowling, what fields he had. I mean, that shows the kind of aggression he's got. So he would go down hard as well. He also knows, and he's been part of those series wins, and he knows exactly how to approach a game against the Aussies. So he will go all guns blazing when he's playing against the Aussies as well. Very aggressive. You may not see it on the camera, but definitely he will be very aggressive as well in terms of his approach and in terms of his plans, his game plans, and his tactics, which is what will shine through. And Rohit obviously is in a good space now. Indian team generally, if you see, once the ICC trophies come, they really lift themselves. Obviously, we have stumbled at the last hurdle, but the ICC trophies, I think, bring the best out of the Indian team. So you will see some excellent cricket in the lead up to it, which is we are talking about now, which is what we are talking about now, the India-Australia series.
Well, to wrap up this particular conversation, what are the little mini battles that you're looking for? Of course, it's India versus Australia, but the little battles between bat and ball that you're very keenly that we are going to witness and that you probably would call, are there any grudges there that we can look forward to?
Well, there will be a lot of grudges there. There will be a lot of players who want to say, like, I've got to get one-upmanship on this player. I'm looking for battles like Bumrah versus Smith. I'm looking for battles like Ashwin versus Warner in this series. And going forward, let's see how that goes. I'm looking for battles like Siraj versus Labuschagne. That's going to be very interesting. I'm looking for battles like Shami versus, well, Head is not there anymore. But, some of those top order batters like a Cameron Green or like a Mitch Marsh, Shami versus Mitch Marsh, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking at how the Aussie middle order are going to handle Kuldeep in the last ODI. Kuldeep is not there for the first two games. But I'm looking at how Ravindra Jadeja is going to be as a vice captain of the team. Obviously, Rahul, great finisher. He's had some great performances against Australia in ODIs in India. Looking for how he's going to be against the likes of the Cummins, the Starks. And I'm looking at Stark versus Rohit Sharma. That's going to be a very interesting battle. Stark versus Gill. I'm really looking forward to those battles. And Adam Zampa against Virat Kohli is another battle. Obviously, I'm looking forward in the last game of the series.
All right. Thank you so much, Sridhar, for joining us and with your thoughts. I'm sure we are all excited for the series, and we'll see how this plays out.
So am I, and wishing you all the best covering the series.